Hello again, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Minds on Guard, where we're learning how to guard our minds against all of the manipulations, attacks, and attempts at thought and behavior control that we come under today here in the 21st century. In tonight's video, we're going to continue our study of psyops by introducing a term that has about as wide-ranging of an impact as any that we have looked at in the entire history of this channel. It's really an umbrella term for the complex of topics which fall into the broader categories of how psyops function, as well as the tactics that are used in any operation. The reason I want to discuss it as a single term is that, much like all of our terms, once we have a basic familiarization with this idea, we can use that knowledge to discover similar occurrences of the concept throughout history, and really in all sorts of iterations. This is useful for being able to track all kinds of psychological and ideological warfare, from the large-scale changes in societies all the way down to ways that individuals interact when we attempt to manipulate people to guarantee favorable outcomes for the one doing the manipulating. The term that I'm speaking about is subversion, and it's quite an interesting topic once we get a handle on the basics. The study of this term will certainly take up a few videos, as there's a great deal of depth that comes along with the idea of subversion, particularly in the context of long-term, large-scale psychological and ideological warfare. We will start with a simple definition and some brief discussion, but as we move into a deeper study of this concept, we will look at a lecture that was given in the early 1980s by a man named Yuri Bezmenov, who was a defector from the former Soviet Union. He did some really great work exposing and discussing a process of subversion that, when understood, can be used as a blueprint for being able to track the psychological manipulation tactics which are used at the level of nations. Where one person may be able to subvert another, or even a small group of people, rather quickly and easily, to successfully carry this out at a mass scale is far more challenging and time-consuming, not to mention the resources and humans that you must exploit in order to get these kinds of things done. As such, Bezmenov, through his experience in the KGB and his role in different subversion operations around the world, was able to lay out a clearly defined timeline with steps, areas of focus, goals, and other systematic methods of achieving a full-scale psychological and ideological shift within a population. I will link his lecture to the videos on this topic for you to watch for yourself. Our purpose in examining these things here is to continue to build out our knowledge base on what psyops are and how they work. Bezmenov's material will give us an even more sturdy foundation to be able to examine history through a more complete contextual frame. Now, once we have this concept of subversion in our set of tools through which we can examine the world, we will be better equipped to spot its development and, hopefully, have ways to combat the attacks before they progress too far in the near future. As always, we need to define our term so that we can have a firm footing to begin thinking about the topic of subversion. Now, there are a number of useful definitions to choose from, most of which get the point across. In Webster's, it says that subversion is the act of subverting, especially a systematic attempt to overthrow or undermine a government or political system by persons working secretly from within. Now, that's pretty good, but we need a little more to work with in order to get a full understanding of this concept. We can ask, what does the root word subvert mean? When we look this up, we find that it means to overturn or overthrow from the foundation, or to ruin, to pervert or corrupt by undermining of morals, allegiance, or faith. Now we're getting somewhere. With these two sets of definitions, we can really start to get a handle on our goal of understanding the process of subversion. These definitions reveal a couple of key things to hold on to when we do our deeper study with Mr. Bezmenov. We can do a critical analysis of what is contained in them in order to gain deeper meaning. First, they give us an action state which carries a purposeful and focused aim, that being ruination, perversion, or corruption at the foundational level. We also have, in the first definition, a context in which this destruction typically takes place. It's most often understood with respect to governments and political systems. However, for our purposes at Minds on Guard, we can expand that context to cover any system which has a functional operation in reality. The fact that this can be applied to any system is really the main takeaway. Systems of government, systems of religion, systems which communicate information, and systems of critical thinking are all fair game as potential contexts in which the subversion process could be applied. What this means regarding the basics of the process is that subversion acts on specific components of a system in order to cause some form of corruption or destruction of the original design such that it is overturned from the ground up. This is done from within the target system, an incredibly key point, and by attacking the deepest layers of the system's morality, allegiance, and faith of whoever is in alignment with the system that is being subverted. In short, the things which differentiate the truth from any number of lies. By attacking those components, subversion works to obscure and confuse what would otherwise be clearly defined boundaries of truth, fact, and worldview. With respect to what we know about PSYOPs, whenever there is an established narrative or point of view that has been chosen as the target of attack, the subversion process is going to be an essential in establishing a successful counter-narrative. What we have learned so far are components like the use of specific symbols, propaganda, emotional distress, creating mass levels of cognitive dissonance, and the disruptive and iterative ways that these things are spread among a group. We will learn more about the details of how this happens, but for now, this information will help to get us thinking about the process of subversion. As we continue to look at the subversion process in upcoming videos, I want to encourage everyone to take what we are learning and apply the concepts to your everyday experiences. This concept of subversion is so deeply important to our effort here at Minds on Guard that I want to make sure it's well understood and ingrained in people's day-to-day thinking so that they can spot it wherever it shows up. The reason for this is that there has been a subversion process going on since the fall of humanity in the Garden of Eden. Now, I don't want to beat around the bush and act as though this is a new thing that has suddenly cropped up in the 21st century, or even the 20th. These things that we're looking at can trace their roots to the very heart of deception and the desire for power through corruption of the truth. Yes, there has been a massive increase in the various ways that the subversion process gets carried out, especially with the advent of social media and the ever-growing connectedness that globalization has created. These evolutions and innovations are fascinating and they're crucial to examine in order to understand our current state and how we can protect ourselves from attacks. We've already examined a lot of these things in many of the videos, say on wireless communication devices and networks, as well as the deterioration of the school system of the United States. We will dig more into all of these and discover new areas of corrupting influence. However, we must not lose sight of the large-scale context in which all of this is being developed and playing out. There are forces at work whose sole desire is to subvert the designs of Jesus and draw as many people away from faith and relationship with Him as possible. They know that they cannot succeed in the end, but that will not stop them from destroying as much of God's creation as possible until their time comes. We are the primary target of this attack. My prayer is that these videos, the content that we study, the things we learn and build from understanding the material here will deepen our faith and reliance on Jesus as our sole Savior from the subversive designs of the enemy. Without Christ, we are lost to those schemes and dead in sin. So, let's do the work of studying to show ourselves approved, of living without a spirit of fear, but with a spirit of power over evil, a spirit of love, and a sober mind, all of which must be found in Jesus alone. This is the faith that we must have in order to withstand the subversion process. And we will learn about this and more and be stronger when we trust in God to provide us with wisdom. In the next video, we will look at the lecture of Yuri Bezmenov and examine the key details of the subversion process. Please leave any comments and your thoughts about the material in this video. And until next time, stay safe, stay diligent, and stay vigilant, keeping your minds on guard.